This is part 2 of the signs of the second coming of what we've already discussed. And we're still in Luke chapter 21, and we've already read 8 through 19. And now we're going to do verse through 20 through 28. But this is destruction of Jerusalem. You know, there's Syria and Libya and all them that's trying to, in the U.S. is trying to struck Jerusalem. Well, here's what it says. Beginning verse 20 says this. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its desolation is near. And verse 21 says that those who are in Judea flee to the mountains, and then those who are in the midst of her depart, and let not those who are in the country enter there. In other words, if you're American or whatever, and you happen to be in Jerusalem at the wrong time, you need to get out of there very quickly. You need to depart from that country and stay far away from it as possible. And let not those who are in the country enter there. For these are the days of vengeance, Jesus says, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe to those who are pregnant, to those who are nursing babies in those days, for there will be great distress and lands and wrath upon this people. Verse 24 says, and they will fall by the edge of the sword, and be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem with completed by Gentiles until the times of Gentiles are fulfilled. Well, let me stop there for a minute. That means that if you're pregnant, supposed to be pregnant, or nursing those days, you will be forced to go to this camp alive. And if you refuse, then you will die by the sword. They will kill you by the swords and by guns. Then comes verse 25 through 28. It says, this is the comings of the second of Jesus Christ, the Son of Man. This is where you need to be prepared also. You need to start being prepared, period, if you live in the U.S. and around the world as well. Y'all need to listen to this. Verse 25 says, and there will be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and on the earth distress of nations will perplexity the sea, and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them from fear, and their expectations of those things which are coming on the earth, for the power of heavens will be shaken. Verse 27 says, then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Verse 28 says, now when these things begin to happen, look up and lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near. Now we'll go back to some other scriptures, and this is what also it says. Matthew 24, beginning verse 6. Matthew 24, verse 6. Alright, here's what this says. Beginning verse 4 was I start. Take heed that no one will deceive you, for many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And you will hear wars and rumors of wars. Say that you are not troubled, for all things that must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Verse 7 says, for nation will rise against nations, kingdoms against kingdoms, and there will be famine and pestilence and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of sorrow. Verse 9 says, then they will deliver you up into tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. Then many will be offended, will betray one another, and will hate one another. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. Verse 12 says, because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. And the gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness of all the nations, and then the end will come. Beginning verse 15 says, the great tribulation is this. Therefore, when you see an abomination of desolation spoken by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, whoever reads this, let him understand. And I can tell you about, and I will read you about Daniel in just a few minutes. Verse 16 says this, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let those who are in the housetop not go down to take anything out of his house. 18 says, and let him who is in the field not go back to get his clothes. But woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing babies in those days. And pray that your flight is not in winter or on the Sabbath. And by the way, the Sabbath day is actually on Saturday and not on Sunday. That is a proven fact. For then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been one since the beginning of time of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be again. Verse 22 says this, and unless those days will be shortened, no flesh would be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. Then if anyone says to you, look here is the Christ, or there, look, do not believe him. For the false Christ and false prophets will rise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. Verse 25 says, see, I have told you beforehand. Therefore, if they say to you, look, he is in the desert, do not go out. Or look, he is in the inner room, do not believe it. Verse 27 says, for as lightning comes from the east and flashes to the west, so also will come the Son of Man be. Verse 28 says, for wherever the carcass is, there the eagles will be gathered together. Then verse 29 through 31 says this, immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will be fallen from heaven, and the power of the heavens will be shaken. Then the signs of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory, and he will send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will be gathered together, his elect, from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So there you go. You know the signs. And to talk about what Daniel says, turn me to Daniel. The last chapter of Daniel. Beginning in verse 12. And here's the signs of the end of time. At the time, in Daniel chapter 12, 1 through 13, this is what it says. And at the time Michael shall stand up, the great prince who stands watches over the sons of your people, the great prince who stands watch over the sons of your people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that time. And at that time your people shall be delivered, everyone who is found written in the book, and many of those who are asleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. Some to everlasting life, and then some to shame of everlasting contempt. And those who are wise shall shine like the brightness of the firmament, and those who turn many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. But in verse 4 it says, but you, Daniel, shut up the words, and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. Then I, Daniel, looked up, and then stood two others, one on the river bank, another on the river bank. And one said to the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the rivers, how long shall the fulfillment of these wonders be? Verse 7 says this, then I heard a man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the rivers, when he held up his right hand and his left hand to heaven, and swore by him who lives forever, that it shall be for a time and a half a time, And when the power of the holy people has been completely shattered, all these things shall be finished. Verse 8 through 13 says this, And although I heard and did not understand, then all these, my Lord, what shall be at the end of these things? And he said, Go your way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. Many shall be purified and made white and refined, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. Verse 11 says, And from the time that those daily sacrifices have been taken away, and the abominations of the desolations it is set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Blessed is he who waits and comes to the 1,335 days. Verse 13 says, But you go your way till the end, for you shall rest, and will arise to your inheritance at the end of the days. And brothers and sisters, I pray that you get this message. I pray that you read this. And God bless you all. Amen.